it's this race, and they're going faster and faster and faster, and life feels like it's moving faster and faster. And so I am standing for the idea of slower and slower. Instead of just speeding up and going quicker, how about we go deeper? How about we tap into, with our children, earth speed? The speed of bugs. The speed of the seasons. The speed of a tree growing. Or the wind blowing. The speed of play. Hi, this is Rusty Keeler, and you're listening to the Play Nature Podcast, where we talk about play, nature, playing in nature, and the nature of play. I'm glad you're here. Let's have a listen. Hello there. Welcome back to the Play Nature Podcast. And we are back at 6 Mile Creek on a nice warm spring day. In fact, it's almost a hot spring day. It's kind of a summery spring day, but we here in Ithaca, New York will take it. Yeah, we've had some cold days in April. Spring, and then now we're having some very, very warm weather, which is lovely as far as signs of spring. People are out and about in Ithaca doing everything, riding bikes and walking and jogging and eating at the little outdoor cafes and restaurants, and college students everywhere, so finally we can be outdoors and everyone's working in their yards and tending to this and that. I saw somebody taking down their Christmas lights today on my way here. And let's see, a landscaping crew is spreading, mulch, moving wheelbarrows of mulch, and of course flowers are starting to pop, starting to get some nice spring. We're still early with the flowers, but they're starting. Daffodils are up, grass is greening, and then here I am, 6 Mile Creek, and it's flowing. We've had various storms, some raging thunderstorms that just had tons of water and electricity, and now the creeks are flowing. Next to the creek is an incredible sight. Do you know forsythia? You know that plant, forsythia? It is a shrub, sort of bushy shrub, and this time of year, it turns bright yellow. Flowers are bright yellow, and the famous saying, Ithaca is gorges. So here at 6 Mile Creek, where I'm sitting, there's gorges around, all the sedimentary rock, and the creeks have cut through, so there's these kind of cliffside gorges, cliffside walls, and on this certain wall here, like 30 feet tall, it is a cascade of bright yellow forsythia. Yeah, so that's quite nice, and it's only this time of year. So if you're changing into a season, that's one thing I love about the natural playscape concept, is that we want to put children in touch with the seasons, the cycles of life. And so we think about, what could we plant that will burst into bloom? If you're in the northern hemisphere, you're on my schedule here, so it's springtime. So yeah, could you plant forsythia where you live? Did you put in flower bulbs in the fall? I think we probably talked about that, right? So now's the time. I bought a whole bunch as a fundraising thing from my older son's school, and we stuck them in the ground, and now they're starting to come up, which is nice. So yeah, are there fruit trees that you can plant this year that will burst into blossom next year? Apple, pear, Asian pear. We have one of those in our little yard. One of my favorite trees. Yeah. So yeah, putting kids in the cycle of the seasons. That's what we're talking about. And that's also like a connection to being on Earth. It's a connection to our ancestry, to what's ancient, like our ancient connection to the land we live on, to our communities. And I've always felt like that's a big part of what natural playscape movement is. It's placescaping, creating places for children to know their place and to be rooted in reality, in the real reality of outdoors, of nature, of Earth. So that's what I'm going to kind of get at today in today's podcast, is kind of thinking about our roots as humans, and the root of childhood, and the roots of nature connections, and who that makes us, and what that does for our hearts, minds, bodies, spirits, nervous systems, and how we can be creating that for children, but also in the context of the modern world, and thinking about what our place in this movement is, whether you're working with children, whether you're working with your own children, you have your own children as a parent or caregiver, or you work with children, on a daily basis or weekly basis, or if you are running a program, directing, administering a program, if you're a trainer, if you're an adult educator, if you're a professor, if you're a researcher, if you're an advocate, if you're in government or a designer. Yeah, think about what is your role here to support kind of this real play, this real connection to the real world. I got a little train of thought we'll get into here, but first just kind of contemplate that. Like, okay, what is your role, both, the day-to-day, but then deeper, like what you stand for with nature and place-based education and play in general. Because that is going to be very important as we go into this future. This uncertain future. As all future is, right? We don't know. We don't know what's coming. But the beauty is, we, with our hearts and our oomph and standing strong in what we believe in, we can help shape that uncertain future. And we can help shape it to what we want it to be. So that's where I'm going to go here. Yeah? Yeah, sound good? Okay, well, and so a lot of this actually is, stemming from my own wonderings about my own place in this movement, in this world, and kind of reflecting on that in my own new seasons and my seasons of life and that kind of stuff. I always like to kind of every now and then take a step back and just kind of look at like, well, what's happening, and what's my role in it. So, okay, dark times. Can I start out with dark times? Yeah, there's so much discussion about, how childhood has changed. Children haven't really changed. They may be affected by what childhood is like, and it's different everywhere you live, in every community and neighborhood. But we know that there are trends that have had a big effect on children. And we know that there are, issues, if not emergencies, with mental health, like crises, anxiety, depression, all that stuff. We know that there's kids are indoors more. We've listened to Peter Gray talk about why and the changes and schooling. We've listened to Angela Hansen from her OT, occupational therapy perspective of like children who've been on screens in their early childhood and what that does to their eye tracking and their balance and their ability to pick up pencils once they hit school. All the stuff, right? We know. There's definitely issues with what's been going on in this kind of this unintentional combination of things, leading to kind of a childhood of less freedom and maybe more stress. And if we really love the idea of children in nature and play and freedom, we kind of feel like they're missing out. And as we look at research and we look at what's, how they're affected, there are some changes that are not great. So I guess that's kind of the thing, and the trend, right? And we've seen that, and you can look over the last 30 years, and then the last 20 years, and 10 years, and it's getting, it's worse and worse. And we may, this is kind of the new idea for me, or what I've been feeling, is that we had been feeling like these issues are just getting worse and worse and worse, and we could be pessimistic and just think it's only going to get worse. But what I'm realizing is that I believe that this is a strange blip in our human history. It's kind of the advent of technology so young for children, in the combination with, fear cycles, 24-hour news and indoors, and, even though it's the safest time ever in my country, I'm realizing, instead of thinking that it's going to continue to get worse, I believe that it is about to get better. That those trends is actually a blip. It is like this strange anomaly in our history, and that already it is changing because of awareness. Already we're learning that kids and screens, not so great, especially young, but like kids getting glued to the screen instead of outdoors, or instead of just living in non-screen reality for the eyes, for everything. We know that kids in social media, adolescents in social media, teens in social media is not healthy. The research is out now. The lawsuits are starting to come in, going against social media companies, showing that they're negligent because actually their products are addictive. I mean, come on, we know that. But anyway, so there's awareness on a big level, on a worldwide level. And we also know that too much academics too young is not good. We're learning that the conversations are happening everywhere about that. We know that children have been overscheduled. We know that removing recess, not a good idea. Removing art, music from schools, not a good idea. It was an idea, all that stuff, to try to have academic excellence, better test scores, whatever. Humans, that was an idea. But we're realizing that some of these ideas weren't effective, weren't great, and had damaging effects on children's lives, spirits, bodies, and minds, and mental health. So we realize this stuff. We've been now talking about this stuff. And so we get it, right? It's not new. We're lamenting this stuff, and we can lament it, but that part isn't new. But what's new is the idea of that passing behind us, that wave, and us together, working together to create the reality that we want. Okay? Screens, iPads for the toddler. Nah, let's not do so much of that. Let's balance it out. I don't want to get too much into politics here, but in my country, there's been a lot of our systems, the latest administration has been breaking down systems just talking domestically here, but of course it's also worldwide. Education systems and social systems and university systems and science systems and research and granting and, all these systems are changing. And of course, a lot of this stuff is shocking. When the stuff first happens, it's shocking. But a lot of those systems, we kind of thought that we should probably make some changes, right? Like, yeah, education and social services, there could be improvements and all that. I'm sure you thought it, felt it, right? Okay. We may have approached the shift differently, but regardless, the shift, the systems are breaking down. Some are getting destroyed. But what that leaves room for, this is us looking forward, looking ahead, is that somebody's got to build them back up. Somebody, some groups, some system, some wave of momentum and movement and communication and our voices are going to be used to build the reality that we want in all the systems. Sometimes it takes tearing things down to build back up. If you're an early childhood person, our beloved Reggio Emilia model of early childhood education that so many people love and are inspired by so much. I've worked with so many people that have been inspired by Reggio. And so Reggio, the town of Reggio Emilia in Italy, they came up with these ideas after World War II, after systems were broken down. And so they reflected, how do we build it back the way we want, the way we believe? And so we hopefully don't have to build it back from that kind of destruction, but we get to build back, and we get to visualize, and we can have it based on what we believe, what we know is right for children, is right for their development, is right for their academics and their education. So, we may still be a little ways off from the rebuilding, but it is in our future. So, now is the time to get strong in our beliefs. What you know in your bones. I think the time for lamenting the trend, the negative trends, is over. It's still important for some people, if that's your path, is to push against those. But I believe it's also time for us to visualize the future and start working towards it. And that can be more play, using our voices to support play. Now, again, there has never been a time, probably in human history, where there has been so much clear research showing the benefits of play. Now, if you're like me, we don't need any research. I don't need no research to prove that that's play is the way, right? The natural way of being. But it's important to have that kind of research, because that's how we talk to our administrators and our government officials and our licensing and our, state people and our federal people and all that kind of stuff. So there's never been a time in our history that has had as much research and writing backing the importance of play for children's development, the natural way. Same goes for nature play. We've so much research, so much writing about it. Like, it's not new. We know it in our bones. It is happening. And so we want to bust it open. We want to work together to take it to the next level. And that can be licensing. We think about licensing and what are all the factors that affect children's play and freedom and mess and risk and all that stuff. And so maybe the future is thinking about how we help shift to bring licensing rules and regulations up to date. Yeah. A lot of those rules are based on things that were established way back when. Well, we're here now, and we're going forward. And so, well, what should it be going forward? A friend at a Canadian conference many years ago talked about changing licensing rules simply just because there were policy gaps. Nothing to be ashamed of. There's just some policy gaps that need to be filled, and that is just kind of bringing things up to the modern age. And that could be the forest school, the outdoor preschools or outdoor childcare. There's different rules and regulations that should be created for those, and states are doing that. Some states, but not all states. So anyway, it's the policy gaps. And I think another big part of so much of this with children's freedom and play and outdoors is community. And so us creating the future is strengthening our communities. And that could be our circle of friends, our circle of neighbors, our circle of coworkers, our circle of the parents of children that we serve. After COVID, so many of us, we got out of the habit of gathering, of like having people over. Of course. We thought it was a matter of life and death. But, it tapped the introverted parts of us, and, we're kind of out of the habit, and I feel like, hey, it might be a good time to get back into those old habits, those things that make us feel good, those community connections. It's a whole other podcast talking about the beauty of community and how that can serve childhood. But that's a big part of it, community too. So now's the time. And so we also think about, we're thinking about this uncertainty of the future. There's so much talk about AI, artificial intelligence, and so many people are talking about that as uncertain. And oh yeah, it is. It is. But, dear listener, I believe that the more things go AI and artificial intelligence, and the more there's technology, and the more there's a tendency to get engulfed by technology, then there is more and more need for the stuff that we believe in, that you and I believe in, kind of getting back to the natural basics. So in one way, there's this future, the future of more technology, and the future of AI, and the future of robots, and how that will affect everybody and everything in society and all that. But as things do lean in that direction, it's important, maybe more than ever before, to lean in the other direction. Just have maybe a foot in each world, but that other direction is nature, is connecting to the earth, is connecting, grounding to the earth and the seasons and the cycles of life. The real stuff. The real stuff. So really, as we go further and further into tech, I feel like it's deeper and deeper, more and more important to go into the natural basics, to ground in that. Yeah. To have the depth of the earth, the depth of it all. And the real, how about that? The real reality. Or reality. Physical reality. Whether it's your mud kitchen, or a tree stump, or a shovel or plastic dinosaur in a sand pit. That's real reality. And, there's this race, we think about this AI race, the artificial reality. Right? That's one of the things about it that just is just like, whoa. But it's this race, and they're going faster and faster and faster, and life feels like it's moving faster and faster. And so I am standing for the idea of slower and slower. Slower and slower. Instead of just speeding up and going quicker, how about we go deeper? How about we tap into, with our children, earth speed? The speed of bugs. The speed of the seasons. The speed of a tree growing. Or the wind blowing. The speed of play. The speed of imagination. The speed of laughter. Yeah, what if we did that? You're doing it. Another thing that I've heard talk of as AI is building and growing and, shifting jobs that people once did, taking jobs, allowing people to work in different ways. That is, amazing. Like there is a real revolution of everything because of this technology, and it certainly is incredible. It's one of my little hobbies is to read and study all about it because it is definitely I believe, a turning point in humanity, in our human history. But one of the things you hear a lot is as there's more and more tech, more and more AI, what becomes really important, people have questions, well, what's education? If people are going for computer programming, what are they going to go to school for now? What are they going to go to school for? What is education? So this is also what I mean about rethinking, right? We're rethinking everything because of this. And so, what should education be? And a lot of people say, because of AI and all the tech in those directions, what is going to be most important in the future are the soft skills, are the human skills. And that's the deep stuff that children in early childhood education, in early childhood, that's what they are learning. That through play, that is where you learn the deep, soft, human skills that make you a human, knowing thyself and being able to work with other people. Think about that with play. All that stuff is through play. Collaboration, creativity, compassion, communication. What's this? The 4 C's? Collaboration, creativity, compassion, communication, mindfulness, curiosity. We want to develop and nurture that stuff because that going forward in schools and out of schools, that is going to be what's different than AI. That's the beautiful stuff. That's the rich stuff. That's the stuff we want for all children and all people. And that's what play is all about. Okay, here's another AI. If AI takes care of more things, again, I don't know how much you're getting into thinking about AI, but as a nature and earth person working to be grounded in that, I can't help but be fascinated a little bit by the other and what that means for us. But I think it means that all that earth stuff is deeper and even more important to engulf ourselves in nature. So here's a what if with AI. What if AI did take care of most of the techie stuff? Now, the little techie stuff that we have to do, or people have to do, or companies have to do. What if it does take care of all the stuff that we've been sitting in front of computer screens for all these years for? What if that was taken off our plate? What if we hand it over? And then maybe that gives us an opportunity to be more human. And maybe more together. With some of these C's, communication, community. What if it gave us more time to be connected to the earth and each other? And maybe most important of all, connected to ourselves. Yeah, what if we push the tech aside, let it take care of itself? Let AI deal with the taxes and the emails and the whatnots. Yeah, give it that work. And what if we then have spent more time thinking about what's meaningful to us? And I think that's what play is about too. Children having the freedom for deep, rich, free play, directed by them. Because we know that that's where children discover who they are, what they love. That's how children find their place in the world. Do you know the Japanese kind of life living philosophy, ikigai? Ikigai, I think it's spelled. Oh, there's ducks landing on the creek. That is one of my favorite things. It's so funny. They bomb in, and at the last second they pull up, flap their wings a bunch, and just skid right onto the water. It's a male mallard that just did that right in front of me here. So ikigai is this philosophy of where it's kind of this knowing yourself. It's finding out your life path, your mission, how to get on that path. And it's considering 4 things: what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and, if it's vocation, what you can get paid for. What you love to do, what you're good at, how you can contribute, serve, what the world needs, what the world could use, and how you could get paid for it. And again, it doesn't have to have the pay part, but if it's your life path, it's also your profession or vocation. That's part of it too. And so when we consider those things, that is kind of trying to know thyself. And I believe, and for children, I believe, and I know, that they find out that stuff through play. Maybe we all find out that stuff through play. And for us, play could be listening to a podcast, reflecting, thinking, your free time. It could be reading books. It could be doing the stuff that you love to do, your actions. Whether it's drawing, teaching, educating, supporting play, crafting new licensing rules to support play, whatever it is. But that's that we find out who we are by living and having the space to live and do and then reflect on our lives. And I believe for children, it's the same thing. Through play, they find out what they're interested in, who they are, what they like to do, what they might be good at. With the time, space, and materials. If we're not pushing down on kids, if we're not pushing the academics down, that blip I was talking about before, academics, we thought that was the way. But when we don't push down this kind of learning about yourself and what you're interested in and what you're good at, that sprouts up in the child from their own hearts, from their own inner guidance. So I think we're on the right track, dear listener. Don't you? I mean, I think this play thing, I think there's something about it. But I think there's something about it that is, I think, one of the answers to it all. So the work that you do and the things that you're thinking about, play on whatever level, nature play on whatever level you're doing it, keep doing it. Yeah, keep doing it, because this is making a difference. This is we're actively creating the future. And the more we talk about it, the more we share the ideas, the more the movement will build. Because we can make the world how we want it. Yes, we may have to have some thick skin and some upset stomachs. But maybe, what if that's a blip? Our reactions. And what if we focus on the rebuilding? Yeah. I think it's not a time to give up hope. I think it's a time to ground in our beliefs. Solid. What do you believe about children's play, about nature, risk, mess, education? Yeah, what is it? What do you believe? Write it down. I was a band with a neighbor of mine in the country named Jimmy Popcorn. And if we had a good idea, he'd say, "Write it down, Rusty." So write it down. I think it's also time, again, the Titan community. Why don't you organize a block party? Meet some new neighbors. I think it's also a time to do what you love and spring forth. Yeah. So let's spring forth. Or I love this. Another friend and I always used to, when we say stuff like that, let's do it. And then we step back and we realize, oh wait, it's happening. It is happening. And if you're thinking it, and I'm thinking it, and other listeners are thinking of it, yeah, and we're doing it, it's happening. So, let's keep it up. What do you think of those thoughts, dear listener? I'd love to get an email from you. What do you think? Are you with me? So, not a time to give up hope. Even though it's a shaky time. But if things are shaking up, let's take it to the next level. Let's think about what we want to build back up. How can we connect the ancient, deep things we believe in, that humans have always been connected to? How can we connect those deep things, the natural process of play? How do we connect that and nature to the future? It's happening. All right. Till next time. See ya. All right. Thanks for listening. Do you have a comment or a question? Email me at playnaturepodcast@gmail.com. You know I like talking about this stuff. And maybe we could use your question on a future podcast episode. As always, I have some free goodies for you in the show notes, including my outdoor loose parts guide. Fun stuff in there. And so I wish you the best in your outdoor play adventures. And when it comes to adding nature to your yard, or loose parts, or saying yes to risky play, my favorite motto is dream big, start small, and never stop. Oh yeah. Woo, 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 woo. Let's do it. All right. Have fun out there.